Welcome to the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast. My name is Lauren Wells, here with my co-host Chris Seveny. We're committed to providing you with the knowledge required to build wealth through real estate investing. Tired of consuming content about real estate? Stuck in analysis paralysis? Ready to do your first deal? As a member of our community, you will learn how to go from consuming content to taking that first step into the world of real estate investing. Our show is not about getting rich quick, but about providing you with the knowledge you need to take action. Join us as we speak with experienced investors who share action tips on how to escape the corporate world, start a thriving side hustle in the world of real estate, and go beyond your W-2 or 401k. Welcome, everybody, to the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast, where each week we bring you education and information that will help you take your next step in building wealth through real estate. My name is Lauren Wells. I am your host today, and I am joined by Camilla Jeffs. Camilla is the founder and CEO of Steady Stream Investments, an education company that teaches people how to add passive income streams to their lives via apartment group investing. Camilla is also a GP in over 1,000 multifamily units and a 65-bed-based assisted living community. In addition to her 20 years of experience investing in real estate, she holds an MBA and was known as an innovative HR leader for tech companies. Camilla is the host of Quiet Wealth podcast and has started 4 successful businesses. Outside of real estate, she is also the mom to 5 children, loves to play soccer, tennis, and raising farm animals. So that is quite a resume. You, similar to I, come from the tech background. So welcome to our podcast. I'm glad to have you here today. How are you doing?
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. I think I was on LinkedIn. I saw one of your posts and I was like, oh, I love her. I love what she's putting out into the world. We need her on our podcast. And here we are. So I'm glad you could join us.
Perfect.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I like to always give people's backgrounds because not everyone kind of started in real estate. And I think it's important for people who are looking to get into real estate to understand not everyone started where they are today. There was a progression that got them there. So tell me a little bit about, you started in the tech world in HR, which I love. So talk a little bit about that and like what realization made you realize, okay, I got to get into real estate or I'm going to make that shift. Because it's not normal for us people coming from tech to make that shift into full-time real estate investing.
Yeah. So I actually started investing in real estate before I even got into tech.
Oh, interesting.
Because I needed to. And I know that sounds funny, but I got married young and my husband and I were both living in a nasty garage apartment as we were trying to both go to school and get our bachelor's degrees and do all the things, right? We're young and broke. Completely broke. So we're living in this garage apartment and my landlord came around to collect rent. And I knew she owned a bunch of properties around the city and she rented them out. And I just kind of chatted with her for a minute. I'm like, what are you doing? Or how are you doing what you're doing? And she's like, well, you know what? You should buy a house. And I'm like, lady, listen, we're living in your nasty garage apartment. We have no money. We cannot buy a house. She said, no. Listen, you go out, you buy a house that has a basement apartment, and then you rent out that basement apartment, and then you can live there for really cheap or even free. In my mind, I'm like, I was still super skeptical because she's also a realtor. So I'm like, you just want my money. You just want me to so you can get a commission check. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, you know what? That kind of makes a lot of sense. So we went out looking with her, and that's exactly what we did. We bought a 6-bedroom home that even had a pool in the backyard. And we lived there cheaper than we lived in her nasty garage apartment because we rented out the basement. Yeah. And it was amazing. And that's when I started thinking, okay, there's really something to this real estate thing.
Yeah.
And so next for us, after we graduate and get our degrees and we start working, we're trying to figure out, okay, now how do we do more? I started reading lots of books on real estate. And then we decided that we would do the live-in flip method, which is where you go buy a fixer-upper and you move in because you put down very low money and you can get like first-time home buyer programs or you can get all these things. And then you get the best interest rates as well. And then you live there and you fix it up. And so we just taught ourselves how to fix houses. We didn't know how to do this before. We were just but this was even before YouTube was big. So we were like reading books on how to fix plumbing, all of those things. But we taught ourselves and we go. And we did that. And then we did it like clockwork. Every 2 years, we would buy a new place. We'd move in, we'd fix it up, move out after 2 years, and we'd either rent it or sell it. And 2 years is strategic because it's a tax hack. So if you live there 2 of the last 3 years, then whenever you sell it, you could sell it for no capital gains tax. You don't pay any tax on that gain.
Yep.
So that was very strategic for us. And that's how we kind of started going along. Well, meanwhile, we're doing this on the side. And then I go and I get my MBA and I really launched my career in tech and working in the tech companies. And I loved it. I really loved it. But do you know what's interesting working in HR is that you see firsthand the cap that we put on salaries, right? And tech salaries are high, they're ever changing, and there's just a lot going on. But I can't tell you how many tech people would come to me all frustrated because they're like, I could get so much more at another company. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, but we're only going to give you 2%, 3%. That's all we're going to give you as a raise. So it's well known in the tech industry that you have to leave your company to get a 10, 20% raise, which was not ideal. But like we actively work to cap those salaries. And you have to, because it's a business. We have to make money and we have to be profitable. But it was shocking to me and disheartening that my salary was also capped. And there's like no way that I could get much higher than I was unless I left. And then it would take me like 20 years to really make good money. I was like, this is dumb. I can make so much more money in my real estate. I mean, meanwhile, we flip a house and we made $100,000.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I just need to do this full time. And that's what I'm doing now.
Nice. Couple of things there. One, I love that it's like, and I always think this is so interesting. Like it's usually a conversation or a podcast in this day and age that you listen to that really set you on this path. And how cool is it that your landlord at the time and you had that conversation and you're like, lady, I cannot buy a house. But it's like, you don't know what you don't know until you have a conversation and someone points you in the right direction, or you read a book, or you listen again, like today, you listen to a podcast. So I love that. Can I ask, because I'm thinking, man, a 6-bedroom home, where you purchased your first home?
But you have to remember, it was 20 years ago. So we purchased this. It was in northern Utah is where we were living at the time. Okay. And we purchased it, I think it was $135,000. It was a lot for us back then. Because remember, broke, we're making like $10 an hour, maybe. But
that's like house hacking before they called it house hacking.
Yeah, it is. It was. I know. I did it before it was cool.
Yeah, right. You like did that, and you were doing live-in fix and flips before like the whole HGTV boom.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Oh my gosh, I love that. So you went on, you realized, and did you continue to build your portfolio? Like when you started, you say in HR with tech companies, where were you at? Like, could you have left your full-time job to do that right then? Was it kind of a strategic exit that you made, or kind of what was like the final? I'm going to leave.
There's a lot of decisions, that go into leaving your job and going out on your own. And if you're anything like me, I'm a meticulous planner. I need to know all the things. And I have 5 kids, right? So they're relying on me and we living a comfortable life. And so there's a lot of anxiety around leaving your job and relying on just yourself to bring in all the income. But so for me, what I did is I strategically looked through my portfolio, real estate portfolio, and figured out, okay, I need to replace at least 70% of my income. And I had a 6-figure income at the time. So I need to replace at least 70% of that for me to feel comfortable exiting so that I can go out. And then the other financial decision that I made was I needed to have at least 12 months worth of expenses in the bank. I know traditional is like 3 to 6 months of expenses for an emergency fund, like in case you're laid off or whatever. But if you're going to go out on your own, you want to give yourself at least 12 months to figure it out, because it takes time and it's not easy. And there's ups and downs and all arounds for being an entrepreneur and relying on yourself. but I needed that 12 months of expenses. So even if I didn't make a dime, I'd be okay. We'd be okay for a year. And then I could just go back to a job if I needed to go back to a job. So those are some of the decisions that I had to think through and work through. And there's a lot more that you have to do as well as you're thinking about exiting, but those are two big ones.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think a lot of our listeners, I'd say a good part of our listeners are kind of either starting out their investment journey, wanting to leave their corporate jobs. And it's, I think, a little bit glamorized of like, oh, I just left and it like all worked out. But I love how you point to like, and I'm not as much of a planner as you, but my husband is. I feel like there's always, I'm more like heart, like, let's just go for it. And my husband's very like spreadsheets, numbers, like obviously budgeting, how are we going to make one of us left? Because I did similar to you. I left tech and it was similar, like, okay, if nothing happens, nothing at all in the next 12 months, we're good. I can go back. Jobs aren't going anywhere. They'll still be there. So I love that you speak to that. Like you planned it out, have a family. And then I know for us, like healthcare was like, that's an added cost if neither of us are bringing in, which is so unfortunate, but it is what it is. But it is an added cost, especially with kids that you have to think about. So how did you, once you left, you're used to having a CEO of a business who makes all the decisions and you're part of the like execution of that when you're working for a corporate company. How did you go from like shifting your mindset into like, okay, now I'm the CEO of the business?
Yeah. So going from an employee mindset to a CEO mindset is like, it's a complete 180. As an employee, you wake up every day and somebody else tells you what to do. And somebody else tells you how to do it. And somebody else puts the targets for you and tells you when to do it and all of this, right? So you wake up and your day is very scripted. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. And then you just go and do it, right? You don't have to think very much. Well, not suddenly, and I distinctly remember this and just knowing that, okay, I'm going from being in HR in tech, which means that my calendar is 100% full. I had back-to-back meetings all day long. People needed me. I was getting pinged all the time, like, help, hey, help me with this, help me with that. And then I knew as soon as I exited, I would go to complete white space on my calendar. And for me, that was jarring. It was very uncomfortable. It was very kind of, oh my gosh, well, what should I do? Even though there's like a million things that you could be doing as a CEO, how do you figure out what are the best things to do and what's happening? So I'm going to give your listener a tip. This is what I did. So as I was approaching my exit date, I knew it would be uncomfortable for me as I exited and then just suddenly had nothing to do. Maybe some people were like, woo, I'm so excited. I'll have nothing to do. But that only lasts for like a couple of days. And then the reality and the anxiety of, oh crap, I got to go make a whole bunch of money and keep my lifestyle going sets in, right? So, okay, have your joyful, awesome, fun days. But then for me, it was, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks and I'm going to script out every 30 minutes for that 2 weeks. Just so as I ease into entrepreneurship, I still feel like I'm accomplishing something and I'm getting something done. And then I love the book, The 12-Week Year. I used that and I followed that to a T. And I just mapped out, okay, what do I want to get done in a year that I could get done in 12 weeks if I was really focused? And I followed that to a T as well. And so kind of helps you still feel like somebody else is telling you what to do as you're adjusting to that CEO mindset. The other thing you have to keep in mind is decision making. I think sometimes we don't really trust ourselves. We're taught not to trust ourselves, right? Like as an employee, you're not allowed to make big decisions. You have to go get that approved by this person and then this person and this person and like 8 different people. You have to get it approved by before you can actually move forward with your idea. Not as a CEO, you can move forward with any idea you want to, but you often get paralyzed because you're like, is this the right decision? Am I going the right way or am I going the wrong way or what am I doing? So I'm going to relieve your stress from that right now. And I want you to just realize that there are no right and wrong decisions as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, right? There's just decisions. And then you make another decision, right? You make a decision, go after it. If it's not really working out the right way, you make a new decision and you change, right? And so don't think of it as right and wrong. That's too black and white thinking. Everything's gray in entrepreneurship. There's nothing that's
hard for a lot of people. I think that's the hardest part. My husband right now is looking into consulting specifically. transitioning away from that W-2. And I think the hardest part we've realized is it's not black and white. You're not showing up. You don't know exactly what you're doing, but it's kind of the best part about it. Like you can also create what you want to be doing.
Yes, it's so fun. Once you can get past the fear or what, not past the fear. I don't think you're ever past fear. I think once you can hold hands with fear and just realize fear is going to be your best friend along this whole ride, you're going to have fun.
Yeah. So, okay. Kind of to like put in the timeline, when you left your corporate job, what did your portfolio look like? And what were you hoping to learn and grow in, like what areas of real estate at that point? Because I'm assuming, here we are, Steady Stream Investments. You went the real estate.
Yeah,
you weren't.
I did.
So yeah, let's talk about that. Like, where were you at portfolio wise? What had you invested in? And what were your goals for that first year?
Yes. So about 15 years into my real estate investing journey, I started getting burnt out because I was DIY. And like my husband and I were DIY and we were dragging the kids to the properties. We were painting, we were cleaning, we were mowing the lawns, all the things that I was taking all the calls, fixing the toilets. And we did that because we didn't really know another way. We just thought that's what you have to do. And then we were also had very scarcity mindset around money too, because we just had hardly any money growing up. And then also when we first got married. So he and I were very good at pinching pennies, right? And we're very good at not spending money.
Yep.
And so spending money to hire like a property manager felt stupid and felt like, now that's a waste. We can just do it ourselves. We can do it ourselves. Well, that mindset is good in the beginning, but it really hindered us in our investing because investing, once you can break out of the DIY mindset and start to rely on other people and bring other people into this, oh my gosh, you're going to go so much faster. So let me tell you my journey. So it's for first 15 years, we acquired about 10 properties and then got burnt out.
In that timeline, you're still working your corporate job or you had left at some point? There?
Still working corporate job.
I just think that's important for people to know because I think, look, you did both. Like you were really like in it. It wasn't like you were fully committed to real estate yet. It took time for you to get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Still in your corporate job,
for sure.
15 years in.
For sure. So still in the corporate job, 15 years in, we have about 10 properties and we're both completely burnt out. Properties are they're cash flowing maybe $100 to $200 per property. So not a ton of cash flow, right? The equity, of course, there's equity in there, but you can't eat equity. And so we're trying to figure out what to do. And that's when I started thinking, okay, well, there's got to be a better way to invest than just all these single family stuff. We had done a fourplex as well. So we had a little taste of multifamily. But in my mind, I was thinking, well, if I could just get like an apartment complex, I'd be set. And of course, I'm still thinking about this as a DIY. And so I start looking at apartments. I'm like, oh my gosh, they cost millions of dollars. And then I check my bank account. Yep, sure enough, not $1 million in the bank account. So now what do I do? So I started reading about it. I started listening to podcasts about how to buy apartments. And I quickly realized that, most people don't do this by themselves. Most people put together a group, and this group of people go out, they buy it together, and then they share in the profits. And it depends on what you do and how big of a share you get, right? That's all pieced out. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. But one of those people could just be the money partner, right? So you just invest your money into the project and then you get a return. And as I studied more and more about it, I learned that the returns were actually better than some of the single family properties that I had done all DIYing, right? It's like, you've got to be kidding me. And that's the next step that we took. We sold off some of our properties and we rolled that money and we invested that money as a passive investor into an apartment complex. And of course, I had some mindset issues around control because I was used to controlling everything. But as a passive investor, you don't control anything. But also, you don't control anything. So you don't have to control anything. And so it can be such a great thing to give up control so that you don't have to make all the decisions. You don't have to deal with all the problems that come with real estate because there are problems that come. So invested passively, just fell totally in love with it. It was like, this is amazing. More people like me need to know about this, need to understand how to join a group investment like this. So that's when I launched Steady Stream Investments as a passive investor education company. And I'm just out there educating people like crazy, like come join, come try this out, come try this out. It's such a powerful way to it. And then I'll go out and I'll vet different teams and different deals and different markets. And when I find one that I think is a good one that I want to invest in, I'll just bring all my friends along and we'll go invest together. And now I join as a member of the general partnership team to help manage that on the backside. So just to give you guys a flavor, so 15 years, I got 10 doors. Within the next 5 years, I'm at 1,500 doors. Like, it's incredible what you can do when you join a group of people. Now, I only have a small piece of each of those doors, whatever. I don't own them 100%. So don't get the wrong idea, but I'm making way more money now too than I was doing everything myself.
Yeah. I mean, you had great success in passively investing, and you obviously saw the benefit to not having to be the one with boots on the ground, even though I understand that control, giving up that part. I think that's like most entrepreneurs have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So, you then kind of pivoted that and shared that and are starting Steady Stream Investments to educate people on how to get started passive investing. So, like, what are some strategies or what are some for people looking to invest and make their first passive investment? What does that look like? Like, what are some things you talk about and you educate people on first? Because there's a lot of education that goes into it. I think we see a lot of, like you said, fix and flips. It's like, or wholesaling or long-term rentals and being a landlord and owning a property. Like, that's what's out there on the TikToks, Instagrams of the world right now. And over the past, I don't know, probably 10 years, it was a great time to like basically throw money at something in real estate, and you did well that way. Now, as tides turn, that's not really the case. So I think it's what you're talking about is really important. It's what we're involved in with passive investing. So what are some things that you kind of educate your audience on? And what are some of the people's questions when they come to you or concerns?
Yeah. You bring up a good point with the tides are shifting, right, in real estate. So a newbie could have done really well in the last couple of years, right? You didn't have to know much about real estate to make a bunch of money.
You could throw money at anything, literally.
Right. And you would have made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Now that the tides are shifting, I think this is the best time to get involved in a group investment with experienced professionals. And that's what I also love about passive investing is that you're investing with highly experienced professionals. This is their full-time job and they're running businesses. Like every property we purchase is like running a business. We have mega financials on those. We have property management managers. We have asset managers. It's a well-oiled machine that you invest into. It's not like other properties that I did in the past that where we buy it and then we like, oops, we made a mistake. Okay, go fix this. You're like just fumbling around. So that's why I think now is a really great time to stop DIYing and pivot into some of these bigger investments. So take advantage of all that equity that you got in all your single family investing. And let's move it into large multifamily because single family might take a hit. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's definitely slowing down right now. But in multifamily, the demand for multifamily, especially in certain markets, is still going really strong. And it's just, there's no end in sight to how much housing people need. And that's another thing I love about this is we provide housing for people, which is pretty awesome to be part of the solution for housing. And we even do affordable housing projects too and work on that. But you asked about passive investors. So what do I educate on? So the most crucial thing, if you're a passive investor and you're looking to get involved in your first project, so number one, you need to understand who is running the deal. I think the team is the most important part of this, because if you're investing with a team who is inexperienced, who've only been doing this 2 or 3 years, again, it was easy to make money. Yeah. It's not going to be as easy going forward. There's still lots of money to be made, right? You're still great investing happening right now, but you need to be investing with a really strong team.
Yeah, I agree. Tons of opportunity is out there. Probably will be even more so in the coming years, but you have to have the experience in a downturn market and the experience in that asset class. I think so. Like you said, really, I always tell investors when they're looking at where to place money, the team is almost as important as the asset class you're investing in. So I agree 100%.
Yep, for sure. And then as far as the process goes, you have to educate yourself. You have to understand there's different numbers or different metrics. And I think aligning yourself with someone who can explain it and who's really great communicator is also really helpful as you're looking at the teams that you want to join, so that they will answer your questions. Because you're new to this, you need to be asking a lot of questions, and so that you can feel comfortable and do it. Because in a lot of these investments, it's not a small dollar figure that you're investing. Typically, they're between $50,000 to $100,000 that you're investing at a time. And so you want to make sure that you feel good about where you're investing. But I want to warn you, you're never going to feel 100% great about it, right?
And there's no guarantee. Like,
no,
I don't
and there's
know
no
if you ever
guarantee.
get this, but I get, well, is this guaranteed? And I'm like, there's no, if anyone ever says anything about a guarantee or promise, like run as fast as you can the other direction, because you do not want them handling your money. Nothing is guaranteed. So, but yes,
for sure.
Great point. Yeah. You'll never feel 100% about anything, any sort of investment, because there's always some level of risk.
Right. Well, and I remember my first time investing passively into one of these projects, and I was nervous. I was wiring $50,000, and I distinctly remember the day that I was wiring it, and I was like, hand is just like shaking. And I'm like, oh gosh, well, I hope this goes well. And what it did very well. But so it's been a really good thing for our family.
Yeah. And another thing that I noticed, and this kind of came up on one of your posts, is you on LinkedIn, which you're very active, I love, is you even take it a step further. So you're educating people who are looking to make their first investment passively and where to start, but also taking it a step further to people who might have kids, little owners, I think you called it. I love that. I have 2 boys myself. I was surrounded by real estate growing up, but not in the past 10 years have gained tremendous knowledge on my own about, wow, I didn't know about these things. I didn't know that you could open or roll over from a tech company, a self-directed IRA or an IRA or 401k into a self-directed IRA. So and then I've seen some of your posts again, even further, how do I educate my 4-year-old? It's very different how I'm going to educate a 21-year-old. I don't have a 21-year-old, but I'm just, as they grow. So can you talk a little bit about that? How, you have 5 kids at various ages and stages of their lives. When did it dawn on you, okay, I need to start educating them? Because I already feel like I'm behind. I have a 4.5-year-old. I'm like,
okay, well, let me help you out. You're not behind. We didn't really start our education, our financial education of our kids till they were 5. So you're right there.
A few months.
You got a few months that you can start. I'm pretty passionate about financial education just in general, right? I mean, real estate is my vehicle of choice for investing and for building wealth. But what I really want to do is I want to educate people about money and finances and how to do this. And so on my podcast, Quiet Wealth, I teach money level 2 is what I call it. So what to do after you've gotten out of debt and you're getting a good income. I don't teach the basics, but I like to teach what happens level 2, like how to start building wealth. And you do that by investing, and you do that by having your own business so that you can have tax advantages. And then the third piece of that is this generational wealth category, where we want to make sure that we're passing on not money necessarily to our children, but education. So we want the kids to be set up for success in their education. So I have a whole thing I'm developing to teach people about this, but let me give you a little snippet about what we did with our kids. And then I'm excited to be able to teach it to other people, but put them into 3 different categories. So age 5 to 11 is when the first money training starts. And this is when they need money in their hands. They need to understand how to give, how to save, and how to invest. And so you do those 3 things. And then, so for us, it was a 50-50. So 50% of the money they got that they earned, they got to spend. And 50% was either giving, saving for long term, or investing. And then we had our own family bank in there where we inflated it so that they felt like they were making some money. And it was a really great experience for them. Then you move into ages 12 to 15. And in those ages is when you start, they get kicked out of the family bank because now they need to start learning how a real bank works. And so they get into the regular banks. You start teaching them about budgeting. So we gave our kids like a clothing budget for the year. We deposit all the money into their account for that year, and then they'd have to spend it, right? So they'd take their debit card and they would buy their own clothes. And But of course, there was money we put in their account. So it's not like, but if they ran out, right, what happens? Well, that's on them. If they had to go earn money to buy other clothes, if they didn't have enough money for a swimsuit in the summer, well, you got to go earn some money to go buy some clothes. And then ages 16 to 19 is where the real training happens, where you're like, okay, you're about to become a financial grown-up and you got to know all these things. And so still doing the giving, the saving, investing. So still really teaching that and honing in on that. So for my kids, I've been a real estate investor a long time. Real estate is a really big piece of investing for us. So one of the strategies that we would do is we go and we'll flip a house as a family. And so we go out and we buy a house and then we take all the kids and we all work on it and DIY most of it. We do this intentionally now, even though remember I told you it's better to do partnering and do all that, but we do it intentionally right now with the kids so that they are learning all of these skills. So, I mean, they can all sheetrock and tile and do baseboards and all the things, right? But also when we're there working, we're having really great conversations about investing in what we do. And then we took it to the next level. So flipping a house is great, but now remember I teach level 2. So here's my tip for level 2. You flip a house and then because you have a business, you can shift income to your children and you can shift about $12,000, a little bit more than $12,000 per child. They are paid for working in your business. So of course we're flipping a house. They're absolutely working. And so they're getting paid for that. So that's times 5 for us, that's $60,000 that we could now shift. So we shift $60,000 to the kids. Then we went out and we bought a short-term rental and we told the kids, okay, the $12,000 that you each got, $2,000 of that you can use to spend on what you want. Like this was a good time to buy a big ticket item. Like my son, he bought a mountain bike. And then the other $10,000 though is reserved for a real estate investment. So then we go out and we buy a real estate investment. Each kid invests $10,000 into this short-term rental. And it's a cabin that's not too far from our house. So it's one that we can use as a family too. That's fun. And then me and my husband put in the rest to purchase this investment. And now the kids have passive income coming in. And then we're teaching them about how that investment goes. P&L statements. I sat down with my daughter the other day and we were going over profit and loss statements and how to read those and understand those. But it's kind of fun. And one of my favorite stories is when my 17-year-old daughter came home from tennis practice, she says, Mom, my tennis coach asked me if I had a job. And I said, no. And he's like, oh, well, how do you get money? Like your parents just give you money? And she's like, no. He said, well, then how do you get money? She's like, well, I own real estate. He was like, wait, what? So it was a fun story.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you go even a step further than probably most people would. I think like the general just education, but then even creating like giving them ownership in the real estate at that age is awesome. And it's so interesting to me because I think a lot of people that I'm surrounded with or colleagues, former colleagues, friends, money is not something that I think when I was growing up, at least people really talked about a lot. It wasn't, we didn't really talk about all the things that you're educating your kids on. That's very transparent, very open. Everyone kind of knows how money is spent. That's not stuff a lot of families talk about at that big of a level. And so I just think that's really awesome that your kids are so fortunate to have. And I love that you're so passionate about this and are creating a program to talk about this. I know it's something I'm very interested in. I'm like, wow, that's even a step further than I would have gone. Like, so that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. I feel like we've covered so much today from like quitting your job, mapping that out, taking your first steps into passive real estate. I mean, do you have any final thoughts or tips that you would recommend to people? I guess you said your kind of level 2 is where people who have a job, making good money, not in debt, start. What would you say is the first place they can get started if they want to?
So, I mean, I always recommend house hacking or figuring out some way to house hack. There's so many creative ways to do it. Of course, we did it where we bought a home that was set up with a basement apartment. And so it was easy to rent out the basement apartment. Well, what if you don't have a basement apartment? Well, can you rent the rooms? Okay. You don't like to rent rooms to other people. Well, maybe you can set aside one room and Airbnb it once a month. And now you're getting income. Okay, if you don't want to like live with other people, what if you leave your house once a month for the weekend and Airbnb your house for the weekend? I know a guy who does this and it pays his whole mortgage for the whole month. So he's living there for free, except for 3 or 4 days a month. He goes and sleeps on somebody's couch. Other things you can do. If you don't like people being in your house, well, could you set aside a bedroom and you rent it to other people and put their stuff in it? Because people need storage. Bought a lot of stuff over the last couple of years. And so they need somewhere to store things. So you could earn money that way. So think of ways that try and be creative about how you can earn money with your house. I think that's a really great step one, because if you think about it, what's your biggest expense every month? It's your housing. Housing is the biggest expense. So how can you reduce that and make some money come in?
Yeah.
Step two is to really ask yourself, do I want to be an active or a passive investor? Because they're two completely different paths, and both paths can make you a lot of money and both paths can be a lot of headache. So it just kind of depends on where you want to go. So if you ask yourself, like, am I excited to learn, to really dive deep and learn? Like if you're like me and you love to read books and you want to go out and try the things and do the things, great, be an active investor. But if you're not like that and you're like, you know what, I just really like my job. I like hanging out with my family. I like doing whatever I want to do on the weekends. Okay, active investing is not going to be for you. So you need to go the passive route. And the passive route is just simply investing your money. And mainstream has always told us that we just invest in the stock market, right? I mean, even your company is forcing you to invest in the stock market, right? Because they have their 401k and they're like, we have this great benefit for you and you would be dumb not to do it. Like normal narrative out there. But really, investing in real estate or alternative assets, right, is so much more powerful than just simply following the herd and doing what everybody else is doing in the stock market. And I've lived it, right? I've lived a different path. It does really well for you.
I love that. So Camilla, if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do or pick your brain, where can they reach out? How can they connect with you?
Yes. So first of all, follow me on my podcast, Quiet Wealth. So my podcast is a little bit different. I do about 80% are solo shows. It's just me teaching you step-by-step techniques and tactics to really build wealth. So follow me there. And then you can also find me at steadystreaminvestments.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I have a new course that's coming out that's called W-Tour to Entrepreneur. And it's teaching you exactly what we talked about in the beginning. What are the steps and decisions you need to make in order to transition from being an employee to a CEO? Because we know that like 90% of new entrepreneurs fail. And I think it's not because of the business that they chose. It's not because of the thing that they did. It's because they struggled to transition from being an employee to a CEO. And so that's what this course is all about, is to really just help you take those right steps and set you up for success in whatever business that you choose to do.
I love that. Oh, that's going to be so great. I agree with you on that. It's not usually the idea. It's usually like you said, shifting your mindset from being an employee to being a CEO. So I'll definitely have to check that out. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of the CWS podcast. If you guys, listeners, enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave us a review. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you for joining Lauren and I on this episode of the Creating Wealth Simplified podcast. Each week, we bring you expert education, experience, and information in a digestible format to help you identify investment opportunities so you can build wealth through real estate and take action toward your financial goals. Enjoy the show, share with a friend, or subscribe to the show and leave us a review.